Hello, and welcome to Screen Junkies News review of Mother.
Ooh. Mother!
Thank you. I was waiting for Andy to do something with that, and you did not fail me. This is Darren Aronofsky's new film. I am Roth Cornet. This is Mr. Andy Signore. Dan Murrell. We're going to do two things here. We're going to talk about the movie spoiler-free, and then at a certain point, it's very difficult to talk about this film without spoilers, so we'll get into full spoilers, but we will give you fair warning. First off, Andy, what did you think of the film? No spoilers. What were your expectations?
The film is being marketed as something that it's not. And I think that's the biggest warning I just want to give people the heads up on. And I think, look, our review, even spoiler or not, is going to almost intrigue many people to want to see this movie anyway. And I think, great. They have the choice to go do that. I myself was not a fan of the film. I think artistically it's well made. It looks good. Like, the acting's good. But from a storytelling perspective, I just didn't need to sit through it, and I didn't really come with that takeaway that was worthy of the time spent watching. It was just a hard pass for me.
Dan, would you recommend this movie to people?
This movie kind of transcends recommendation, and I mean that in a sense that, like, no one is going to have, I don't think, the same reaction to this movie.
That's true.
No one's going to come out of this movie going like, I don't know, it's fine. Like, this movie is going to, there's going to be a lot of people that love this movie. There's going to be a lot of people that hate this movie. I don't think there's going to be anywhere in between. So, like, would I recommend this to somebody to go see? Like, I honestly can't. I feel like if I'm recommending a movie, I'm kind of telling you whether I think you'll like it or not. I don't know. I don't know.
Which, is that a good review? Like, do we give him credit for making us discuss and be challenged mentally on whether we like a movie? I can tell you what
I thought of it. It wasn't for me. It's just not for me. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. It's just not for me. This is not the kind of thing that I connect with. I could see. I know people, well, you didn't get it. I hate that mindset now when if there's a movie like this that's very complex, very symbolic, very metaphoric, very personal, obviously to Darren Aronofsky, if you don't like it, the people that do like it automatically say like, well, you obviously don't understand it. I don't know what there is to understand in a lot of places.
Well, I also think that's unfair because there's a million ways to interpret this film.
There's a million ways to interpret
you don't understand it, but I don't understand your version of it. I could have my own take.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just it didn't speak to me. It's not the kind of thing that I connect to. You know, if it was a clone of myself, well, I know I had the exact same taste that said would I like it, I'd say probably not. But I can't tell you whether you're going to like it or not because it's just one of those movies. And Roth, I know you had the same kind of reaction as I did.
So I heard two things about the film going in. One was true and one was not. One was, this is sort of like Rosemary's Baby. That is not true at all. That is not what this movie is. That is how they are, and we're going to do a whole separate video on this. That is how they are marketing this movie, and I really believe that people will ask for their money back. There was a trailer the other day going, you will head back to the box office. I heard from a friend that they saw a trailer for the movie basically saying, like, you're probably going to ask for your money back, which I believe many people will. Yeah. The second thing I heard was that it's polarizing, and that is absolutely true. You'll land somewhere in an extreme feeling about this movie after having seen it. I went in as a huge Darren Aronofsky fan. I tweeted out, this is like Christmas for me. I was panicked trying to get to the screening because I was so excited to see this movie. I love almost every movie he's made. There's one exception. And it's not The Fountain. Oh. Yeah. I actually really like The Fountain. It's not... It's a beautiful, yeah, Noah. I'm not a huge Noah fan.
The other one
but I really love his work. He deals a lot in metaphor. He deals a lot in allegory, and I am not opposed to that at all. This is so on the nose, and it is so in your face, and it is so, like you said, it is deeply personal, but in a way that I think I'm going to have to see it, and this is going to sound weird, another 2 times to really know how I feel about it. When I walked out of it the first viewing, though, I was pretty disappointed because it was so on the nose, because it was so, he doesn't have a subtle hand generally, but man, it's like hitting you with a bag of hammers in this one.
I was trying to put it into words last night as I was describing it to someone, and I was trying to figure out, like, how do I frame this movie? And the only thing that came to my mind was, if you've seen It Comes at Night, it makes It Comes at Night look like a mainstream horror thriller.
I loved
It Comes at Night was not a mainstream horror thriller, but that's how far out this movie is from anything conventional. And that's not bad for a movie to be unconventional. I don't want people to construe me saying unconventional is bad. However, Darren Aronofsky clearly had a lot going on in his brain, and he needed to get it out. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad that it's out of his system. It was obviously some messed up stuff that was in his brain, and he had the tools and the resources as a filmmaker to just literally vomit it out onto a screen and just get it out and purge it out of his system. That's great, Darren. I'm very happy for you. I'm glad this burden has been lifted off of your chest. You seem like you probably are a healthier person for having ejected whatever this was out of you. However,
it's a good release.
Watching what he ejected out of himself onto the screen,
it was like cleaning up vomit.
Was not a pleasant experience for me. Was not an enlightening experience for me. Was not really an engaging experience for me. An enjoyable experience, or one that I would want to relive again.
Well, look, an enthusiastic thumbs up.
What's funny to me is I think this review though will make so many people fascinated and want to see the movie, which is great. You should, but I am worried. Like, there's also this sort of angle of like, you won't believe the WTF movie of the year, and it's like, no, that's not the movie. It's definitely a WTF movie, but it's very pretentious in a way for me. It's very obvious and so much symbolism that you can go watch 10 times and I'm sure get a million takeaways from, and that's great if you got a takeaway from it. But it's also just a lot of time of punishing Jennifer Lawrence in a way, sort of just watching her go through things over and over that just keeps escalating and escalating in a way that just like, it's not in a weird twisty way that I think they're hyping this as. So I think it's unfair, because I was going in like, oh cool, there's gonna be some big twist. No, it's you're watching an escalation of a person go through a lot of things that definitely become a little bit like, what's going on?
And it's mean. It just feels mean.
It feels very cruel. And I get it. And they handed out this like literally when we were walking in, they handed out a statement. They're like, this is a statement that Darren would like everyone to read before they watch the movie. I'm like, okay. That's strange. But it's mean and it's cruel, and you can see like it's this long statement that he wrote. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it's it's just like, this is what I was looking at when I looked at the world and I saw all of these things that were happening, these terrible things, and climate change denial, and this was inspired by the buzzing of smartphones and blackouts and Hurricane Sandy and people in South America killing dolphins. It's like all this thing, and he's like, I woke up and it was a fever dream and I vomited out the first draft in 5 days, and it's just like, you could tell this came from a place. This comes from a place of darkness in him, and it was too much for me. It was too much for me, and I think that there's a lot of serious film people that are gonna probably recommend this movie, and I've read a lot of reviews that kind of are just like, I don't know what this is, but I recommend that you go see it. And I think there's going to be a prevailing opinion among a lot of them is that if you don't recommend going to see this movie, then you don't take film seriously, and I don't think that's true. I think you can be a serious film person and just say like, I don't really think that this was much of anything.
Right. Well, it's like I've said it online, but it's like there was a point I just wanted to walk out. I was just like, I don't need to sit through this. But then at the same time, I didn't want to give the credit of like, you got me, Darren. I walked out of your movie in disgust. Like, it wasn't even that. It was just like, what? I don't need. I get what he's doing. I get the symbolism there, and I see the tortured artist and genius and things that he's trying to convey in tone. But it's like, I don't need to see this. It's not something that I wanted to commit to sort of say, you just put me through this ringer. You better get me to a place. Yeah. And he didn't, and it didn't, and it just felt like I was just very mad at the end of just like, I didn't. Why? What was the point?
Yeah, why? Exactly. Why?
I mean, I feel like to your points, there's a lot of interpretations for why, and I would put I actually really liked It Comes at Night quite a bit, and I think they're very different movies. I think It Comes at Night just has a slightly open end that's not even really all that open, and it's just a movie about human beings and how they would behave in circumstances. This is not a movie necessarily about human beings, except as metaphors. This is not about real people with real human behavior. No. This is about kind of like archetypes of human beings, and they're archetypes of, and we're going to get into this with spoilers, what the archetypes are. So in that way, it's not totally related. It feels like a fever dream. It feels like a dream I have had, because I've had those home invasion dreams. I have a recurring nightmare about that, where I just can't keep people out of my house. So there's something about it that I understand what he's saying in that sense. Having said that, I'm going to see this a couple of more times. I do think it's one of those movies that you should see, because there's something there where he's experimenting and pushing beyond. No. In this sense,
that's what I've been debating. Is there anything there?
That's, I think, the valid discussion.
I feel like so many critics are being forced to make the assumption, or it's just like he's kind of put on your shoulders the presupposition that there's something there, and I'm not really sure that there is. I think it's just madness.
Yes. It's hard to talk because now we're teetering into spoiler territory.
Like we should just
I think
wrap
we need,
up non-spoilers and go into.
I think we need to get into spoilers, but I will say this. In the sense, I do think that there is something there, in the sense that this is a very different kind of film that I have seen in the last several years. Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, I don't know. You could take something like Night of Cups, which is Terrence Malick's movie that I absolutely hated. I hated that movie.
But it wasn't as dark.
It was not as dark, but that movie made me very angry for similar reasons. But I could put an asterisk on this. So I could watch this 2 more times and end up loving it. Right now, I'm very disappointed, but I could watch this 2 more times and end up loving this film. And that says something about it to me. I might not. I might walk away and be like, nope, I was right the first time and I don't like, it's not for me.
Yeah, for me, I mean, takeaway before we talk spoilers, it's like, look, I just think go in prepared that this is a deep, artistic movie filled with symbolism, and it's not a what the WTF twisty horror Rosemary's Baby movie. That is not what you're getting here. So if you want homework and you want a movie to really digest and really push you to a core to think about things, like, then great, go see this film. That's what this film is. It's a thinking film that will push your mind in a way that you're either in or you'll get frustrated with, but then be prepared that you'll leave frustrated. I think that's really what this movie is.
And it slaps you in the face, it punches you in the throat, it kicks you in the balls, it stabs you in the chest, it kicks you down the stairs, and then it does it all over again. You will either then find it was a punishing experience. I'm honest. It was a punishing, miserable experience. Not in the miserable experience of like watching a terrible movie. Just like it was just unpleasant. An unpleasant experience, and not in the way that Requiem for a Dream was. That is an extremely unpleasant experience.
And on point, you're going through that for a point. Yeah, agreed. And that's where I like, you couldn't handle it. No, Requiem for a Dream is a brilliant example of. He did it wonderfully there. I don't want to watch that movie again, but I've seen it, and I respect it tremendously because you're watching like what it's like for addiction and drug and like amazing performances, and it all has a point. Whereas this is again, we'll have to get more into as we spoil it, but I didn't see the point.
Well, but Requiem for a Dream, and this is the big difference. This is a movie that is coming out of Darren Aronofsky's mind. That is, and a thing that somebody said to me afterwards was, I just don't know that movie was about anything other than him. And it's not. And this is the interesting thing is like, if you do love film, and there are films out there that are experimental and push the envelope that you might not walk out of and say that was my favorite film, but it questions what a film is and can be. And this film questions what a film is and can be or should be. And the difference is that most of those films are made for very little money, and they gave him a ton of money in order to make this movie. And as a result of that, they had to completely mismarket it because all they're aiming for right now is to get butts in seats that opening weekend.
Jennifer Lawrence, horror movie,
You'll know where you were when the movie happened that messed up your mind forever. Too much. Hyperbolic, not true. It's an experimental movie that you gave him millions of dollars to do, and that's what's different about this film. Let's talk about spoilers, and let's talk about the fact we can talk about this director's statement a little bit, because that was my first warning. They gave
I didn't read it. I read it afterwards.
I read it afterwards. I was annoyed. No, I read it afterwards too, because I was like, well, a film shouldn't need an addendum.
I didn't want to read a thing before the movie.
It said he wanted people to read it before the movie, so I sat down and read it, and it did kind of it puts you on. I agree. I don't know if that helps because it does it put me on my heels, and it's just like, oh wait, so this is. Like I said, he just hates the world right now. It basically says Darren Aronofsky he's saying, I hate the world. I hate so many things about it. And even he says, I don't know what this is. I don't know where this came from. Now watch it. It's like, okay, I'm glad that you're able to indulge that. That was my big thing with the movie is like with David Lynch, I'm not the biggest fan of David Lynch in the world. Again, for a lot of the reasons with this movie, like it just doesn't connect to me. It doesn't speak to me. It speaks to a lot of people. It doesn't connect to me. The difference between this movie and say a David Lynch movie like Mulholland Drive, for example, is I never felt like Mulholland Drive. I don't think it's David Lynch indulging himself. I don't think he's indulging his own psyche. I think that he is painting a very abstract picture, and he may understand what it is, but nobody else does. And this movie to me just felt so self-indulgent. And it was just him, Darren Aronofsky saying, I hate the world, and here's all this disturbing, messed up imagery and sound and noise and yelling and screaming and 2 hours of just on and on and on. And I'm with Andy. It's like, but in my head is like, in service to what? Other than the fact that you wanted to yell and scream and say that the world sucks for 2 hours. That's fine, but like the expectation then doesn't have to be on me to like it.
Yep.
What was shocking to me, and I don't know if you guys felt this way, for a movie that was so built on tension and discovering this, about 20 minutes in, I just got restless.
Mm-hmm.
I just really got restless, and I was like, I sort of get where this is going. I mean, I didn't know what the ultimate end was going to be, but I sort of get where this is going, and now I just kind of want to get there because it feels like you're toying with me for no good reason. And if you're going to have a movie that's built on this kind of revelation and allegory, like, there's certain things that you could see. I could see that the house had no driveway. So no one was driving in to get there.
Yeah,
so
well, she couldn't leave the house. That was a clear thing too.
So it was clear. Like, those things were signaling to you that this is not our reality, right?
Even the beginning, she wakes up and she's naked practically, and you're like, where are you? And it's a very, starts, even with the opening of the gem, and the movie starts with sort of surreal, warning you like something's off.
Something's off.
So at a certain point, you just want the characters to be engaging enough, and you want the relationships to be engaging enough that it carries you through to whatever that reveal is. But because these are not human beings, they are allegories for, I believe, one of them, because a lot of mixed metaphors are happening in this
There's so many mixed metaphors.
A lot of mixed metaphors. So it's like, one of them is that she's Gaia, like Mother Earth, and he's God the creator, right? So...
And then Ed Harris is Adam and Eve.
Exactly, Adam and Eve.
Yes.
And then we have Cain and Abel come in terms of their two sons, right? With Don Hall Gleason.
Yeah.
Donald, whatever, in any event. They're sort of hitting these markers from the Bible, but they're also doing the Big Bang Theory of, like, you know, it explodes, the universe is created, and then it comes back, and it's a cyclical nature.
Yeah.
It's just, and then they're also talking.
Then there's creativity. There's allegories for creativity and art and ownership and the idea of surrendering yourself to your following and your life, and that's where it really ran off the rails for me. Like, I was the first hour and 30 minutes of this movie, I was like, this movie should just be called Jennifer Lawrence Walks Around the House. That's literally all it was. It was just Jennifer Lawrence walking around the house for an hour, upstairs, downstairs. I go to the study.
The camera in that way.
Yeah. And her nipples. Jennifer Lawrence walks around the house, and for no good reason wears a see-through shirt that shows her nipples. Like, why was she always... Sure. I mean, I didn't mind. She's a lovely
nature, Mother Earth,
nature. Like, but that's the thing. But I didn't mind because she's whatever. It's fine. But it's also one of those things where it's like, because they're doing that, she's so like, I am Gaia, Mother Earth, and he's like, I am mad creator genius.
That's what turned me off.
Yes.
The ending of the movie is what really took me from going like, okay, this is an interesting experiment, to just like, really, man, really, like. It was when, we get toward the end, and it's Javier Bardem, and it's more and more obvious as it goes on that Javier Bardem is the creative genius. Obviously, whether Darren Aronofsky knows it or not, obviously a stand-in for Darren Aronofsky.
Yes, absolutely.
We have a total M. Night Shyamalan Lady in the Water situation.
Yes.
And
what a torture
luckily
genius
he didn't play the part himself. When we get to the end, we're in the spoiler section. When we get to the end, and he's just like, "I'm so sorry, there's all this destruction, but I must create. I must create. This is what I must do." And it's just about how the act of creation and it becomes this purifying act, and it's just like, get over yourself. I mean, I'm sorry. It really struck me wrong. It just like, because there's the biblical stuff, and I'm on board, and the destruction of the world, and then it all kind of comes to a head with this thing about art and creativity, and it's like, this is so indulgent.
Even if we indulge that sort of, okay, he's God and that's Mother Earth, like, why is that he allowed to do this?
Yeah, that's
what's the point? And then to me, it felt like this justification for him to be the creative genius of like, I can do whatever I want. For those, if you're watching this part, I'm assuming seen the movie, so we're really getting in there. But yeah, there's a a portion also where it's like it just keeps pushing these boundaries to a point. And the moment I almost walked out is when they introduce the baby. They have this moment where they introduce a baby, and you're setting up for that baby's going to die.
Something horrible is going to happen to this baby.
And it's like a father, and like it's just such a thing. If you're going to handle that, like you got to do that really well and have a point to it. And there's just a scene where the mother is protecting the baby, and he's staring down. It's like this very tense moment, but then you like know it's coming, and then it's coming, and then it happens, and you're just like, why? Why did you need to go that far? Like for what? What did that really have to mean? Because you just wanted to disturb us?
I guess it was like
that's what it's for. And it's like, all right, you've disturbed me. Where are you going with it? Oh, you're just a creative genius, and take her last bit of love, and because you're a monster, I guess, and God's a monster. Like it just, it doesn't. For what purpose?
I think he was pushing it. I think he was pushing it that way for two reasons. As I respect that as a father, that must have been horrible for you. But as a human being, they allow you to. That baby was
adorable.
Gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, that was an adorable baby.
Yeah.
And the minute I remember watching his little smile, I don't know if it was a boy baby. Anyway, the little smile, and my whole heart lit up. And I was just, I started to smile, and I was like, don't smile, because he's really going to hurt this innocent, beautiful creature in a minute. And that's what he did. And it's to shock the audience, but also because Jennifer...
They didn't need to shock that far.
But I think it was for the character, two things. That becomes like the Jesus analogy, right? Because they're eating the baby's blood of Christ and all that.
And then that's what we're talking about, mixed metaphors.
Right. Mother Earth has Jesus.
Exactly.
And then it's Mary and Joseph, and then Jesus is in there.
It's a very mixed metaphor, because then the second thing is to push her to the point that there is no return, that there is no coming back. She can't forgive him. She can't forgive humanity. At this point, that's
when Mother Earth explodes on itself.
That's when Earth that's annihilation of humanity at that point, right? Yeah. That's when
Which makes sense, to be honest.
Like that's when we have gone so far that we destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have literally taken it to a point that we cannot return, and we ultimately are the arbiters of our own destruction in that moment. That's what I think the purpose of that is. But at the same time, it's just like, you're also kind of just doing a bad marriage. You know what I mean? Where she's like, why wasn't I enough for you?
Yeah.
And it's so much like a bad marriage of like somebody that's married to an artist, and he just is more interested in Instagram likes and his friends.
Right, which was an interesting point.
Intimate relationship.
I didn't buy that in the story, and then like he wins. He wins at the end. So it's like, so that's worthy. That was worth it. Like, because he's just gonna smile and start again. That's like, oh, deep. Really, like, why?
It just, to me, and again, like I said, I really want to protect, because there are people who are gonna think that if you don't like this, like I said, if you don't like this movie, that you don't like film, and you don't like serious film. No, but that's gonna be a lot. I'm sure there can be people in this comments that are saying like, oh, ScreenJunkies, they don't know anything, because obviously this movie was a very deep metaphor. You didn't get this, and if you don't like this movie, then you obviously don't like. But I'm just saying, like, there are people who think that and who will say that. I'm sure there are people in the film community who will say, well, if you didn't like Mother, then you obviously don't appreciate art. I do appreciate art, and I, it's okay to not like something that's personal and complex and metaphorical and allegorical. It's okay to not like it. That's art. You like it or you don't, and that's the big thing. Was like, even when I was thinking, oh man, people are gonna give me such garbage because I didn't like this movie, and it's like, well, why should you be afraid not to like it just because it's serious? That doesn't mean I'm not a serious film lover.
But I think you just need to stop taking their opinions matter. I mean, to me, it's like people are allowed to like the film. Like I think people will like this film, and I've talked to people who like this film, and it affects them in a way, and I think great, and I think for a lot of viewers, this will affect them and speak to them in a strong way. It did not speak to me. It really did not speak to me. There is a warning just for me. If it's like, it's not what it is. And I'm happy to discuss with others, but I don't know how many get swayed of. To me, this is a Darren Aronofsky. Just like, look at me, I'm a genius. This is my sort of personal story, and good on him. Like, if you got it out, like you said, I'm hoping you feel better. But as a viewer, like I didn't need to watch it. I didn't need to see it. I didn't gain anything out of it. It just was like a very weird exercise. And like, how do I F with an audience and say, haha, screw you, is what it ultimately came out to me for me, and I just don't need to ever watch that again.
I don't mind a movie shocking me, but if you're going to shock me, personally, I would prefer that you enlighten me or give me some kind of insight into something, into a character, and I saw no insight into this. This was 2 hours of Darren Aronofsky making a thing that says people suck, the world sucks, and it's always been like this, and it always will be the end.
Doesn't matter.
And he sucked. Everything sucks.
Yeah, I do think
he's Darren Aronofsky saying everything sucks.
I do think I wonder if this is his internal struggle. Like, I'm a terrible person.
I feel like
really
it is.
Could it be what it is? And even if that is the case, like, I didn't care. I'm like, yep, okay, great. You're a terrible person. Good for you for figuring that out.
But I will say, to your point, Dan, what's interesting is what you're saying is probably one of his messages in the film is that we shouldn't be paying attention so much and taking it so much to heart. And I have this problem myself, I will confess, to what strangers think of us, to the point that it could potentially detract from your actual real life intimate relationships. You know what I mean? That you would allow it. Like, that's where the metaphors are so mixed. This is about like a god, you know, who's also this dude that's into being famous.
A famous poet.
You know what I mean? It's this guy who made this poem that's rocked the world.
Yeah.
This is a perfect piece of art, and which is always a dangerous thing to have. Like, you know what I mean? The only way that you can do that is you open the briefcase and we never know what it is.
Yeah. Well, thankfully they didn't. Well, they do give him a little sense of how great of a poet he is, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah,
which always breaks the movie down, right? Like, he's not. You can't tell me this poem because that's not going to break anyone's world.
So is that the idea? Is that like it's about him being an artist who's really into being beloved as an artist? Where I do think he's sort of giving himself a lot.
Look, I can't get into this guy's head. Clearly,
well, he can't. That's the thing. Like, I was even reading an interview with him, and he can't get me. Somebody asked him, was like, how close is this to the original vision that you had? And he's like, you know what? I don't know. Like I said, this is a fever dream. And even he said, as time faded, my thoughts faded, and so what we made was what I originally thought of. He's like, but I can't even tell you what it is. So, you know, I mean, he's an artist, and listen, he succeeded in creating a piece of art that we're talking about. It's probably going to be one of the most talked about movies of the year. And if his job is to challenge people, which it is, then he did a great job. He's made a great job of creating a movie that's going to challenge and inspire debate and stuff. But you know, you also need to be prepared that not everyone's going to like it.
My other problem is, like, I think Jennifer Lawrence was fine. She did a good job acting, but it just got annoying to me. Symbolism and all aside, like, it just gets to a point where you're just like, okay, when are you going to do something, Jennifer? Like, I forget the character's name. It was like, you're just watching and waiting for just like, okay, now there's more people in the house, and
did she have a name?
I don't remember.
What was her name?
Did they come here, love? Yeah, love, my love. He always
Goddess.
he always called her something. I don't know if she actually
Goddess,
had a
my love, Goddess.
but she just it's just constantly, you're waiting for her to finally stick up to him, and then nothing happens, and it just gets more and more extreme. And I was just sort of just like, okay, enough, and I didn't care.
Because I think
it doesn't make any sense. Like,
we could talk about this for hours.
So why are they in the house, and why are they?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think one of the main things, and this is where I haven't decided where I actually land on it, is this is a movie that seems to be about a guy that he's so dismissive to her, right? He's so like, Goddess, come here, but he doesn't really listen to her. He doesn't pay attention to her needs. He doesn't care about her. Like, she says, he talks about, it's so great to be around someone that appreciates the work, and she's like, I love your work.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
So he's instantly dislike him.
So condescending.
Yes.
And it's so cruel to her throughout the film. I mean, it's so horribly cruel to her throughout the film. So I'm like, okay, is he making a point about like pervasive hatred to women, but at the same time he made a movie that's so hateful? You know what I mean? To the female character. It's just so hateful.
But is that the takeaway to sort of like,
maybe that's the point.
Right, the takeaway is, oh, look, don't do this, Jennifer, whatever you're doing in life, don't do this to people. That's why I can't.
Or are we as humanity doing that to her?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where's the takeaway that it didn't work for me? I didn't see what was the takeaway for me to learn from, of like, I don't want to be that, or I should get off my phone, or let's go talk to people. Like, any sort of interesting message could have been probably conveyed a little bit slighter to, like, actually, once you get pulled through the coals of this movie, like, you want to leave with an insight of like, all right, wow, that shook me up. Like, I need to change something and do, like, I didn't have any of that.
This would be like, it's the difference between, making a piece of, making a painting that shows a devastated portrait of the earth, scarred and very detailed and intricate, and you can look at it and you go like, oh my God, look at what we're doing to this planet. And then next to it is a painting that just has in big bold letters, the world sucks. And that's it. And so you look at it, that was me. I was looking at it, I was like, I get it. You're telling me that the world sucks. However, that's
this weird world you've created
all that it says
actually does suck.
And I know that the world can suck. So it's like, I don't know. It's like 30 minutes, the longest review you've ever done. I feel like we should. No one's watching anymore.
No one's watching. I'm going to say two more things. That one, that I think maybe the reason we were left unsatisfied is because, to your point, Andy, the resolution is that he wins and he starts it again. There are no consequences. He just creates a new girl to torture and a new house to destroy. And it's just secular, and like he learns nothing. And so we as the audience don't have that catharsis that the character has learned something and come to a better conclusion.
Well, because God is the devil, apparently.
I mean, or there's no difference, and maybe that's the thing. But it is making us talk, which is good. And I will say that sequence in which we see every terrible thing that has happened in humanity is basically like Sodom and Gomorrah. Like every terrible thing in humanity in the span of 7 minutes or whatever it is one amazing piece of filmmaking. I'm telling you, like that to me though, like I have mixed feelings about
for sure.
the movie itself, and
it's a very expensive sequence going through the stairwell back and forth of all the different changes of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But what's weird is like I didn't even enjoy it.
You didn't.
It's like
for just like executing
I should have, and the fact that I didn't, that I was just so disgruntled and annoyed, and just like and then I started going like, wow, this is expensive. For what? I just couldn't like get over the fact of like enjoying that. It's like, wow, look what he's doing. Look what this means. And like, whoa, man, like they're stepping this up. Like, no, it wasn't like Children of Men shots were happening, and I didn't even care.
But that's the thing in Children of Men, which is also a very bleak movie. Those things pay off so much more.
Great payoff.
So much more. All right. So we hope
Spoiler
you loved Mother.
Spoiler over.
Spoilers over. Guys, if you saw Mother, if you think that we're bonkers and we don't get it, and tell us in the comments below.
Tell us your theories down below.
Tell us your theories below. Tell us if you sort of agree. Not. We're open to everything around here. This is a movie that will divide us. And if you just watch this review because you'd rather watch us talk about it for a half hour than go see Mother, good for you. Good for you.
Or shame on you.
Shame on you. Go see Mother, then watch this again.
Go see it and watch it again.
That's true. See movies and get your own opinion about it. We're curious what it is, because this one sure is going to have people talking.
Hey, it got us talking.
Thank you for joining us. You can like and subscribe. Talk to us at Screen Junkies News and on Twitter. We're all at our names at the things. And we will see you next time.
Mother!